Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about one specific synergy team that I do consider to be one of the most rounded, capable bunch of champions, especially when put together in this entire game. So it consists of Winter Soldier, Killmonger, Void, Omega Red and Sabretooth. And when put together, there are several very strong synergies. Killmonger gets True Strike on Intercept, Winter Soldier gets a lot of attack, Killmonger gets ability to shrug off debuffs, Void gets heal whenever he applies debuffs on opponent, Omega Red gains his Despor rate up multiplied, basically increased, and also they fall off slower. Sabretooth get a lot of extra bleed damage, Omega Red increase his death field damage, Void increases his debuff damage as well, and additionally Sabretooth can bypass opponents' abilities when inflicting debuffs, and overall it's just a fantastic, great time for all champions involved. Killmonger gains extra power rate when opponents are bleeding, and just to showcase it, I'm going to take it in a random quest in Act 615, I believe, and we're going to go all the way through down to Crossbones boss. And what I like about this synergy team more so than about most other teams is that, well, first of all, it encompasses many different champions from 3 different classes, so you can always pick a champion that's not going to be at class disadvantage in any given matchup. Aside from that, there are a lot of good damage dealers. Sabretooth can amp up his damage to really kind of like decent, respectable amount. Winter Soldier basically turns into a Star-Lord that can out damage most of the struggles in his way. Killmonger is decent, especially when duped damage-wise. Obviously, there's Omega Red, and all champions in there are fantastic and definitely great to use, especially when they are combined. You have complete poison immunity in Omega Red, incinerate immunity in Void, bleed immunity basically in Omega Red as well. You have True Strike, so you can prevent aways and auto blocks with Killmonger. You can deal with power gains and health gains and regeneration using Void. So there's overall a lot of really great stuff happening for them, and seemingly they pretty much answer vast majority of the problems in game. So I used the first fight against that superior Iron Man just to amp up Sabretooth. It's a fairly kind of basic fight. Second fight is Falcon on Masochism. So there would be several ways how we can deal with Masochism. First of all, Sabretooth can bypass it when he has his synergies active. Second, you have Void and you can try and reverse the heal. You can simply try and out damage it or not trigger, like in this case, fighting a Falcon, and Winter Soldier doesn't really place any debuffs on opponent, and even if he did, his damage does get amped up to a really respectable standard quickly. So yeah, this synergy team overall offers a great amount of utility, versatility, control in the game, easy kind of questing. You have your damage ramp up champions. Sabretooth is going to be hitting insanely hard once he gets some furies built up, and there's just so many great things happening all around when these champions get combined. It's kind of like putting some of the game's best champions together with another set of really good champions, and you get a really kind of like solid all-around worst team that you can bring in pretty much in most of the quests, and there is going to be very little that can catch you kind of off guard or by surprise. You get most of the immunities covered, you get ability to counter, evade, and auto block and all that, and I definitely do think that this should be kind of like reinforced and reminded to people, especially for newer progressing players. Because you might, for instance, not think anything too special about Winter Soldier, but when he gets combined with Killmonger, he turns into a real damage powerhouse. Obviously, we all want and like Omega Red and Void. However, Sabretooth, Killmonger, Winter Soldier, all of these champions gain so much more value and versatility when they are in the synergy team. And that is why this video is being made. I definitely want to emphasize how much this team would be kind of capable of dealing with, and especially for younger and more progressing players when it comes to exploring Act 5 and doing your uncollected monthly quests. If you are lucky and enough to get all of these champions as your like 4 stars, you definitely should rank up all of them, because they will cover so much ground for you. They will answer many different problems, save you a lot of headaches, because not just the Void and Omega Red are fantastic in here. They make all the champions in this team to excel a lot more than they do on their own. And I'm sure many of you are already aware of how well these champions synergize, but in case there are some younger players or some players who have simply missed out on this kind of like fantastic team combination, I definitely want to kind of like make it more popular. It would definitely shine everywhere in Act 5, pretty much in every chapter, because you can answer so many different problems. And that is so important, especially if you are progressing throughout the game. If you have these champions as like your 4 stars, maybe some as 5 stars, unduped or whatever, most of them will do just fine. Like Winter Soldier does not have to be duped to gain his damage output here. Sabretooth does not have to be duped to bypass masochism and amp up his damage. Killmonger, I'm using unduped Killmonger. He loses some damage, but overall he still does the job just fine. Obviously, Void and Omega Red are the champions that you want duped, but those are the champions you would have invested your resources regardless whether you know about this synergy team or not. Another kind of quick thing to mention is this synergy team works kind of fantastic whether you do or don't run suicides. It's just you kind of switch off your main focal aspect points. Like without suicides, Void is going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting. Sabretooth is great, and the rest of the champions will still be able to perform just fine, especially in case of Omega Red. Omega Red gets a lot of grief that he's only God or great when you have Suicides active. Well, having Sabretooth with you at all times kind of mitigates that problem, because you're able to build your spores up much quicker anyways, and that will still increase your damage output. And on the other hand, when you do place Suicide Zone, you can still use Void for those fights where you need him, and especially with Killmonger synergy, he's still going to be able to regenerate back some of that suicide damage, but then Omega Red becomes your kind of like powerhouse and able to clear so much more content. Like Winter Soldier doesn't mind suicides too much. He doesn't have immunities, but he isn't really a champion that spams special attacks too much. Killmonger arguably gets a lot better with suicides as well, especially for some limited use, because he starts the fight with a respectable chunk of power and he gets his damage output increased. Now, Sabretooth doesn't like suicides too much. However, you can still manage a fair amount of fights with him. Certainly the extent which lets you carry over your furies depending on how many counters you get at the beginning of the quest. And yeah, so I have found this team to be definitely extremely enjoyable in many different quests, with or without suicides. You can just go in and do your thing, and all of these champions will function well, and they do function better as a team, better combined than they do on their own. And especially in Act 5, where it's kind of like really common to have all sorts of like these different annoying nodes in every quest, where you don't maybe have such a dominant global nodes. Because when you're trying to play Act 6, quite a lot of times you want to focus your team kind of solving the problem of global node and dealing with that. However, in Act 5, it was much more common that kind of each fight was more specific and there wasn't like as much of a common theme. And then this theme just through pretty much everything, and you have multiple ways to answer the same problems. For instance, regeneration. Like here we have Vigor. We could have taken in Void and we could have easily dealt with the problem and reversing the regen, or we can take in Winter Soldier and just out damage everything we feel like out damaging. The fact that there is bleed immunity, obviously some of your champions rely on bleed, but not all of them, and so on and so forth. Basically, you're just gonna have multiple answers to different situations at any given time, and you're always gonna feel like you have a choice in how to approach your problem and how to fight, and you're not kind of like forced to focus on a single champion, because every single champion in this synergy team is definitely perfectly capable of pulling their own weight, becoming useful in many different situations when the situation calls upon them. And then other than that, you can just focus on whichever champion you have ranked up the highest, basically. But I do think it is quite rare in this game, such a like different, diverse group of champions come together so well. Typically, if you're trying to kind of like synergize or beef up specific champion, then a lot of synergy partners might not be that good of a champions, or a lot of times they all are from the same class and or have the same kind of like similar set of abilities. Like it's definitely very dominant when it comes to mystic champions. Like if you want to beef up Morningstar, you're gonna end up having Guillotine, Mephisto, and champions like that, and like all of these champions basically answers a similar set of problems. Now in this case, you are able to deal with many different nodes, many different buffs, debuffs, champion matchups. You have champions from different classes, and I think it is so extremely vital just to be able to kind of like cover so much ground without having to kind of like overly think about what is going to be the team, what are going to be the perfect counters. You're taking this team and chances are you're not going to get caught off by surprise. Now in this fight I probably should have used a different champion. I just wanted to check out Sabertooth's damage once he had a couple of Furies ramped up. But anyway, so the path is almost over. No, this is a fight where I should not have used Sabertooth. Yes, I mixed up the fights because this Winter Soldier has Buffet node on. So obviously I should have went in with Void and I would have a perfectly awesome time. I would be able to reverse that region. But I chose a bit less optimal matchup. I chose to purposely trigger the Buffet, just wanting to check out Sabertooth damage at this point, just because I like to see those big numbers when Sabertooth gets amped up, and I think Sabertooth does not get enough love. Now I have made review videos for Omega Red and I have made a review video for Killmonger, but I'm still missing Sabertooth and Void's review video, same as Winter Soldiers. So if you guys want, let me know in comment section below which of these champions you would like me to review first, and I'll start working on that right away. And I will be using the same synergy team just to kind of like showcase the same set of abilities and not to kind of artificially enhance their damage or whatever. But as we can see here, that was definitely some great amount of damage there coming from Sabertooth. 35 hits, Act 6 opponent goes down despite me triggering Buffet on purpose multiple times. But yeah, and now the boss fight, obviously, as we know, Crossbones is a bane of existence for many players. It is a very tricky, kind of difficult fight to deal with. And who are you going to use? Obviously, Omega Red is just that fantastic of a champion. And whenever you're in any quest, obviously, it helps immensely if you're bringing in several God tier champions. That's why they're called God tier champions. And another time, or for the last time, this list has some of the best champions in the game. Like, as we all know, Void is so extremely good. He's always ever so relevant and popular option to deal with a lot of problems. And Omega Red is as well. He can bypass all sorts of different nasty damage, Korgs and magics, and he's perfect for biohazards, and we all know what he does, right? And it's just so fantastic that you see these god tier champions, instead of relying on random synergy partners, being able to actually group together and make each other even better. But yeah, guys, let me know what you thought about this video, what kind of videos you would like to see in future. Would you like me to kind of like make my favorite synergy video? And also let me know if you guys would want to see the reviews for Winter Soldier and who else would love Winter Soldier, Sabertooth, and Void. And yeah, I think more or less that will be me done for today. I definitely hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, share it with your friends. Perhaps they are unaware of how well of these great champions synergize together. Perhaps, yeah, this can be useful to you or your teammates. I certainly hope so. That was the point of making it. But yeah, guys, remember, basically hit all the buttons, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.